Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and this
is Microbikology.
we're gonna run that roster and empty the bullpen tonight because it's all hands on deck while I take you through how to build a Stage 2 Predator 79cc performance engine. Alright guys, step 1, we're gonna clean this filthy motor off. Currently the exhaust is off and I'm going to be taking the carburetor off before I clean it because I'm basically going to just hose this thing down. So what I've done is taken a paper towel, balled it up and stuck it in a baggie, and I'll stuff that in the hole. Cool. I'm going to plug on my intake and one on my exhaust. Take it outside, hose her down. Alright, now we have a somewhat clean motor. Well, in all the right places anyway. Next I'm going to take off the clutch guard, the clutch, and then drain the motor oil. Alright, the oil's dropped. Next, I'm going to be taking off this heat shield that's held on by this one bolt here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull my crankcase cover, and we're going to get that cam out of there. Okay, with the crankcase cover off, I'm now going to be removing the cam. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to put it directly in a bag. Alright, we'll go ahead and put that aside for safekeeping. And next, I'm going to be after my lifters, tappets. I could just leave these in here for safekeeping. Either way, I'm going to dump that oil out. Yeah, I'm just going to leave them in there. You see what I mean? I poured all that extra oil out, and they still want to stay in there and marinate. Good for them. We'll close the door. The door is closed. Do not disturb. Next, we're after the head. I'm going to have to take the valve cover off. I'm going to put the valve cover, the hardware, and the heat shield in a bag. Put this to the side. Next, I'll be removing the rockers and the valve springs. Alright, the exhaust valve is a little pesky. The intake will come right off. We're taking the head off anyway, so we can just finish by getting these studs out, removing this plate. Alright, we're going to be replacing this guide plate, but we're going to keep it together with the rockers anyway, as well as our retainers and clone springs that I had in it. Next, we can loosen these 4 bolts and pull the head. I'm going to take the spark plug out now too. I'm going to take these 4 bolts and I'm going to put them in a bag with everything that came off or out of this head. We should now be clear to remove the head. Alright, so there's our 2 valves. Our intake valve is just kind of flapping in the breeze. Our exhaust valve needs to come out next. I'm just going to be holding the valve in with the rag and using my thumbs to remove the retainer. I'm going to add that to the bag now. If you guys are wondering about my rods, I let those fall down in the cast aluminum vault too. They'll be safe. Now I get my stud puller out and I'm going to remove the intake studs. I think you know where those are going. And the last thing we're going to take out of this head is the valve, since they're both loose. Pretty hard to mistake which is which. The exhaust valve is substantially smaller in the 79cc. Also, you may have heard that drop. That's the intake seal. That's located right there. Also, the last thing to go in our bag. I'm going to take the bare head and stick that in an even bigger bag. I'm now going to take the cam in a bag and wrap that in newspaper. And then you take your head in a bag. I know, creepy, right? And we're going to wrap that in newspaper as well. And then we'll just take those two parts and place them aside to ship out in the morning. Quick update, guys. I'm also going to be mailing out my valves. I am opting for the three-way valve job that they offer, and that is a lot better than just lapping these valves in myself, since I'm having all this work done anyways. Alright, fast forward about 10 days. Wham bam blah jam. We hit the jackpot. We have a 19mm performance carburetor with a couple extra jets, a 19mm to 79cc intake manifold, a cone style air filter, a custom ground racing cam, last but not least, one 79cc performance head. This one has been milled, ported. It's got a three-way valve job, and also a stainless valve guide. While we're talking about the head, we're also going to talk about how Gopowersports is going to be helping us out. Currently, I have 22-pound valve springs in this head. These are really, really good for this motor that we're building. If we were running a clutch and we were constantly in the high RPM range, where we're going to be running a torque converter, we want to be able to build RPM, but we also want to prevent valve float so that we can create more usable power. To do so, we're going to be adding 15-pound clone springs. I'm just going to go ahead and make the swap right now. I'm just going to take my rag and kind of ball it up here. And I'll place my head over it. Take my keeps off. Get those springs changed out. I just went ahead and removed my intake valve for you, just so you can get an idea of what's going on. With that rag under there, this should be pretty simple. Okay. There's my exhaust. I can feel the difference in pressure. Here's my intake. In appearance, they're shorter. Okay? But they're definitely stockier. So, these are basically clone springs anyway. They say these are for a clone. They feel nice going in there. They actually feel a lot more like the stock spring size. See what happens. Alright, with our motor on the workbench, we're going to do the cam transplant first. There's no oil in this motor, so I'm just going to tip it on its side, get all the bolts out. There's also no gasket, so pull the cover right off when you're done. There should be some treasures inside. Oh yeah. This stew pot is full. We got our rods and our lifters. If you're new to the Microbikology program, this was the first Predator 79cc that I did my governor removal on. So this motor's been cleaned out, it's been run, we're not touching anything. So I got a little bit of lubricant, okay? This is my synthetic oil that I'm going to be running in the motor. And I'm just going to go ahead and dab a little bit on all the surfaces I can, including my cam journal. Don't forget to give your lifters a little bit of that sauce. You can give your new cam a bird bath. Make sure to line up your timing dots when placing your cam in. I get my gaskets hot off the press, and then they get delivered here by my California connection, Mr. Grey Goat, at ombwarehouse.com. Be sure to get some oil in your bearing before placing your cover on. I like to have my dowels in place, ready to go. I'm going to lube up the threads on my side cover bolts and then just hit them with that finger torque. Using an inch-pound torque wrench, I'm going to take these to 65 and then I'm going to set them at 96. Okay, with our bottom end sealed up, I'm now going to clean off my piston a little bit. I'm just going to use a little bit of penetrating oil on a rag. I'm not going to just spray that stuff right around my motor. That looks a lot better. I pull my recoil, send my piston down in the hole. I'm now going to take some of my synthetic oil on my finger and I'm going to rub it all over my cylinder. And then we're going to bring the piston back up, and you see how it's pushing that oil? Alright, that's essentially bringing all or any contaminants that might be on the top of our rings up here to the top of the piston, where we'll wipe it off with a rag. Okay, now that that's done, we're going to be reusing the stock head gasket. You might as well say goodbye to that sweet little flathead piston, at least for a little while, because now we're going to install our AGK Racing performance head. Be sure your dowels are in place and then set your clean head gasket on. Remember those parts we saved? Booyah. You can go ahead and lube those threads up as well. The head bolts are set at 22 foot-pounds. Now, I'm going to lubricate and install my push rods. Next, we'll add our rockers and then our set nuts. I set my valve lash at 0.003. A little bit snug on my exhaust side. Fresh valve cover gasket. Alright, once that's tightened up, we're going to spin it around. I'm going to add just a shag under 12 ounces of synthetic motor oil. Close it back up. With the spark plug still out, I'm going to pull the motor a few times just to splash oil around on things. I'm going to run an AGK spark plug. I'm going to go ahead and omit the heat shield. I'm going to cut my breather hose somewhere right about there. And then I just added a new breather filter to match the one that's going to go on our carburetor. Well, guys, I think that's a good place to stop as any, because we still have a carburetor to put on and a custom exhaust. Have a good night, guys. But as always, it's a work in progress. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.